Heidi, welcome back. It's so great to be on this live together again after some time of a break because you've been busy. Life events are back. You are working on some exciting projects, big incentives. That's our topic today. Because incentives are back and there is a new trend of going big. And today I want to hear from you about this new trend. We have event professionals joining us from all over the world, so they will also have the chance to ask their questions. But I have some good questions for you today. So before we begin and while waiting for some people to join us, why don't you tell me about this beautiful photo you have on the background?
Yeah, hi. First of all, Irina, it's so great to be back. Indeed, I've missed you so much. I love our lives, and I hope that our audience missed us as well. We have so much new stuff to talk about. So, yeah, let's do this. The picture that you're seeing is actually a beautiful beach on the coastline here. So, it's one of those preconceived ideas that Norway doesn't really have beaches or it's cold. It's not exactly, you don't really think about the beach to begin with, but this is from the west coast, actually the Stavanger region, where you have both beaches and mountains and fjords and everything all at once. And it's definitely not cold either. So yeah, I just thought we could share something that is maybe not top of mind when everybody thinks of Norway.
Cool. Yeah, it's still on my list to visit Stavanger, so hopefully it will work out next
You have
year,
to
if
come,
not
we're
this
ready
year.
for you.
Cool. So today we are going to talk about incentives. Go big or go home, because incentives are back in full force. And when we talk
Oh yeah.
about big, what is it? What does it mean? Is it big in terms of the size of the incentive, in terms of the budget, in terms of the location, the destination? What are we talking about today?
Well, I mean, there's obviously everybody will have their own definitions of what big means, but for us, it's kind of like incentives that are above 100 participants or above a specific budget, which in our case for Norway is around 2.5 million NOK, which is, let's say, 250,000 euros in a quick conversion. So that's what we would scale as big in terms of size for an incentive group. You know, in the past, we've seen many, and most incentive groups were usually around 25, 30 people, maybe 40, rarely 50. Now that has really changed dramatically, and we see an explosion in these big size incentives with several hundreds of participants. And it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. The new ideas, new inspiration to organize these big size incentives, but also make them personalized no matter the size, right? That's, I find, very
Yeah.
interesting part of the experience.
You know,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
yeah.
sorry, yeah. It's not that they didn't exist before, but maybe they are more prominent in our destinations now. Like the Nordics have become really central focus after the pandemic, and we can see a huge shift there that companies want to kind of try something new. They want everything to be fresh and they want new inspiration. They've many of them have been going to the south like for years and years and years and years, and they're looking for something different, and they're just kind of getting to know how amazing the north is and Norway is. So for us, that's truly exciting. But talking to colleagues in the network, I can see that it's not just Norway, but it's the size, the big incentives are going around pretty much everywhere and much faster than before as well.
Cool. So yeah, you are based in Norway. I would love to hear where our audience is based. So if you are joining, let us know from where you are joining and say hello in the comments. And don't hesitate to ask your questions as we go along. And this year, um, Corona regulations are eased, and companies that haven't done the incentives the past 2 years are doing them this year. So do you see the trend of combining the incentives for 2020, 2021, and 2022?
Well, We have a little bit of both, actually. Some companies do, but to be honest, most companies have had a lot of restructuring. A lot of employees have left, are not there anymore. So basically, the people that needed to be rewarded in 2020 might not be in the same place anymore, right? So for the companies where they're pretty stable on their employee group, that they would basically combine it probably, and you can see the sizes increase, and you can see like several components in, for example, their gala dinner or their award shows, where they before would have focused on one type of group, for example, bestseller in one category, and now you would have maybe several tiers or several categories to be rewarded at the same time. But we also see that many other companies decided to just basically postpone their event, and meaning the 2021 is going to 22, the 2021 is going to 2023. So it becomes this chain of postponements, meaning that we have basically a lot of clients coming in already pre-booked from prior years, plus all of the additional new incentive requests that are coming up now for companies that are not working with this postponement type of scheme.
Yeah, so you are also very busy with all this rescheduling that adds an extra work.
Yeah.
And do you see any specific industries that is keen on booking incentive travel?
Uh, it's a little bit of everything, really. We have a lot of F&B at the moment, which is nice. But we also have a huge amount of automotive. That's always been the case. I mean, Norway has always been quite exciting for an automotive client because of the scenery, and they usually have driving components or bring their own fleet of cars, etc. We also have a lot of kind of insurance and IT type companies at the moment, telecommunications. So those are kind of industries that have not necessarily been hit very, very hard by the pandemic. Still waiting to see the development on the automotive side, because of course there's a lot of issues there as well, with like with global trading problems, and with like consequences of what's happening in Ukraine right now as well. So there's a lot going on, and it's still very volatile. But at the moment, that is what we see most of. It's those industries that I just mentioned.
Cool. And so what are the challenges with these big incentives? I mean, I guess space is one of them, all the rescheduling and checking if the same venue is available for the same incentive, but 1 year later.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that you encounter?
Definitely space. I mean, capacity, there is capacity wars everywhere. Like the number of requests that we get where Norway wasn't even an option to begin with. And people are like, we've searched all around Europe and we can't find the space for our event. Can you help us? You know, but it's kind of the same here. Lots of things have been booked from 2 years before now. And we see that absolutely everybody wants to travel in May and June, which makes it extra cozy. So yeah, it's definitely really hard to find the space. And then secondly, you have the budget question, because a lot of suppliers and a lot of hotels and venues have really struggled to make it through the pandemic, and they've increased their rates. So the contracts from 2020, got prolonged with delaying them, and an option to rebook for 2021. But now we were again a year later, and especially if we're talking about next year, clients cannot expect that the rates will be still the same. And it's quite a significant increase. We see that across Western Europe and also here in Norway as well. So it's important to find that balance, and unfortunately in most cases it kind of means starting over from scratch, because you need to adjust so many things. So it's better to just start with a clean slate and build it from the ground up again.
Yeah, I've heard this before, that prices are increasing, and the budget that you might have had 2 years ago, it's almost double this year. So it's something that clients definitely need to take into consideration when they're looking to book their incentive or event. So we talk about this trend of big incentives, but is there any other trend, a part of the size that you see right now?
Well, let me first get back to budget a little bit. We do see that the budgets have increased in most cases. Not only the size of the incentives, but also the value. The client really, really, really wants to focus on an exceptional experience, especially after not traveling for such a long time, after having so many employees get sick or go through struggles, and having to motivate them extra again to be loyal to their brand is kind of the biggest challenge right now, and they want to do that in a very convincing way. So most have actually combined their budgets from the years that it didn't happen, or they're simply finding bigger budgets to make it more special this time around, because it's like the first time people are coming out in large groups again, and they want it to be extremely memorable. So that's one thing. Nothing should be regular, nothing should be accessible to the regular visitors or individual travelers. Everything is tailor made, and we love that. Of course, that's what we're passionate about. We design the experiences based on the corporate identity of the client, and we match them with the locations we feel match best with their intentions and their goals for the event and the type of program they want, rather than selling products. And before, we were always struggling to communicate that very well and to explain the value of designing something with a proper concept, with beautiful ideas, that is kind of in line with the corporate policy, instead of just trying to offer, okay, this hotel and this activity or this destination first. We always try to do it the other way around. And we noticed that now the request that we're getting, that is actually more and more the approach of the clients and of the agencies that contact us as well. They are more eager to say, yes, that's exactly what we need. Of course, the brief is always the same. They want something special. They've done everything, but this time it's like really, really, really important. Like the experience should be really the best possible experience you can design. And then obviously that requires a bit of budget, so that's the reason also in most cases why they've realized that they should increase the value of their project by increasing the budget a little bit as well. So that's one thing which we are excited about, because we love diving deeper into design and creating unusual concepts and building the experience from scratch, really tailored to the actual group. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is still sustainability, which is, of course, always very important. There was a lot of more focus about it pre-pandemic, and it's just grown during the pandemic. Everybody's been changing their policies and their documents and their internal administration everywhere. So now they have new rules and new policies and new expectations and new requirements. But we noticed that it went from kind of being something like, yeah, we have to something that became a little bit exciting. And then now we're kind of in this third phase, if you want to call it that, where people are like, yeah, I mean, it's just a natural thing that we incorporate the sustainability elements into a project. So it goes without saying that every proposal you deliver, you should have that specific focus on sustainable angles, or at least give them the option, right? So that's what we do in our designs as well. What makes the destination sustainable? What can you do in terms of giving back to the community? CSR has again become much more important. So contributing to where you are is a nice focus. And many companies have gone in that direction of change, transformation, whether it was digital or otherwise, or the entire company structure. So they want that fresh vibe. Everything needs to be kind of like energizing and green and inspiring. And we have a lot of that in Norway, so that helps us. So basically, those are the key trends for me. It's higher budget, bigger size, higher value, better design, and sustainability.
That's a very positive outlook. Amazing. We have Peter joining us from Hamburg and saying hello. Hi, Peter. And
Hi, Peter.
I know that also Peter is organizing a sustainable event in Zurich. So yeah, definitely sustainability is increasing and becoming an integral part to have at an event. So yeah, you absolutely inspired me with your ideas and how you also. I'm sure that an agency that works for with you bring out this energy to choose Norway. So I'm very passionate and very inspiring.
There's a lot of things we can do here. It's very exciting indeed, and it's still the same story. Like many clients and companies have never been to Norway before, and they just don't know what to imagine, and they just have these kind of weird limited ideas. But once they see the possibilities, they really truly get inspired and like, oh wow, yeah, we didn't know that. Let's go for this. Like we
Yeah.
really want to try this. So yeah.
You're a great ambassador for Norway, Heidi. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Irina. Well, I mean, I should be or I shouldn't be working and living here, right?
So we talked about the trends, the size, the sustainability. Has anything changed in the programming of the incentive? Any anything new that you experience now in the type of requests? I mean, I know we touched about it, but let's say the duration of the incentive has changed, or the program, how it's structured. Is there any change in this aspect?
Yeah. So basically the title of this session, go big or go home, right? So that applies to both the budget, to the size. Like we're seeing lots of requests for 500, 600, 800 people. That is very large scale incentives. And they want everything to be about the reward. Like before you would see more meeting components, you had an incentive, but you still needed to do like half a day of meeting here and there, or have some business content along the way. And we've been suggesting a lot of that, like innovation workshops and business exchange for specific industries. But most are just, no, they want to have fun. They want to just be in the experience 24/7. They don't want breaks. They don't want free time or very little of it. They just want to go shopping a little bit. But other than that, they just want to be completely immersed in the experience from arrival to departure. So that is definitely, we've seen that they are more keen to kind of step away from their usual formats, because many companies have the same format year after year. They just move it from destination to destination, and now they're kind of like, why don't we just rethink everything? And I believe that's a healthy approach, because you should do that every few years at least. So we kind of love that, of course, but definitely more experiential, more immersive, and the quality again. Like they want the culinary experiences to be on point regardless of the size of the group, high quality. They want the productions to be on point for the gala dinners or even welcome dinners. There's more ceremonial stuff, there's more entertainment, and the production, of course, the audiovisual part of it becomes more important with it. So yeah, more fun, and I like it. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a trend that I'm also hearing from other event professionals from agency side, that less content, more networking. Is there any creative networking ideas that you've put into your proposal?
Oh yeah, of course, we have plenty of them. We just drop people in like an unusual, surprising location, and they just literally need to mingle with the locals. We just one example is our own co-working space, right? You've seen it in other events. It's called FOMO, so it's an incredible hub of startups and exciting companies. And if you do an event here, you can literally invite those local companies, and you get to mingle with all of those other people from a variety of industries, which is really cool because it's quite inspiring. And sometimes the inspirational elements are really surprising in themselves as well, because people don't necessarily expect a specific type of innovation coming out of Norway, but then they are then surprised that they're, for example, leading in e-mobility, or brand new, there's a project here, our neighbors are working on hybrid storage facilities for electric cars, all kinds of exciting stuff that people haven't heard about before, and they get really impressed just by having these regular conversations and introductions with local people. And you can do this at venues, but you can also do this outdoors, so more and more we try to suggest inviting a local community to be a part of the event, so they get to network not only with themselves, but with the people and the locals from the destination they are in.
Cool. Let's get back to our audience, because we have some comments. We have Peter sharing, sustainability has become so important. What is missing in Germany is an overview of who, where, and what outside Germany is offering sustainable solutions. It is great that Norway is performing so well in terms of sustainability. That is exemplary.
Yeah, thank you for that, Peter. I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot of organizations and also Innovation Norway who are really showcasing the sustainability factors in Norway, and also a lot of destinations that each on their own go and chase those accreditations and certifications and redesign their internal process, their operational process to include a lot of sustainability factors, or to make the entire operations more sustainable. Of course, we do that as well. Like, we are paperless, we are mobile. We try to implement all of those elements to make us more sustainable in the design and the production of our events and incentives and conferences. And we of course want to also kind of push our guests to do the same. So we are constantly trying to, for example, convince them not to get all of their materials produced in Germany or wherever they're from and then ship them over, or send them and have all of these extra logistics. But support the local community, have it locally sourced, that is not only for materials, but for your food, for everything should be short traveled. All of these types of things can make a huge difference in the impact and the carbon emissions of a program. So yeah, there's much more focus on that, and I agree with you. Happy to report back that most organizations in Norway and also the bigger marketing organizations are making a big point of it.
Great. We have Naomi joining us
Hey, Naomi.
today. Hi, great to see you.
Nice to see you.
And Anastasia, super interesting and energetic talk. Thanks. Heidi is a fantastic ambassador for Norway. We will never forget her virtual trip during pandemic. In Barcelona, we also have a lot of movement, price increases at all suppliers and agencies, excitement for experiences and bigger formats. Great.
Oh, so nice of you, Anastasia. Thank you so much for the compliments. You're such a sweetheart, like, really. But yeah, I hear the same from colleagues. We have quite a network also in Barcelona. We also have a bunch of projects coming out of Barcelona to us now. We have direct flights for the summer to Stavanger, to the West Coast. So remember that. Maybe we can do something together. But happy to hear that you see the same kind of developments.
Great. And let's talk a little bit about the topics we don't want to hear about too much right now, but still, as a corporate, you will have to have this clause of Plan B. What happens in winter if, again, there is a lockdown, increased numbers of COVID cases? What do you have any contingency plan for an incentive?
No, I'm just kidding. You can hear the general sigh of the entire audience on this live chat right now. Basically, it is something that we of course have to keep in our minds, and we've learned a lot. We've gotten certifications also in pandemic event planning, and we have what we call assessments and all kinds of duty of care policies, where we go into the current situation and design both plan A, B, C, D. But at the moment, Norway is absolutely open. There are no regulations in place. There are no requirements even. There are no expectations anymore. Like literally, this pandemic is now not treated as a pandemic anymore, but as a regular flu type scenario. So that means that you are not even obliged to stay home anymore from the office. So it's quite surprising for most people to hear that. But yeah, it's something we kind of live with now. And the expectations are that, of course, there might be more and more waves, but they might be similar or even less destructive than the current or the last Omicron variant. We can see that life is pretty much just continuing in a more normal way compared to, of course, before, with all the lockdowns and the distancing and the masks and the extra measures. We are, of course, always careful, and we are continuing to offer our clients the option to postpone in case it would be really required. We never really know, because there's a lot of things we didn't know in the last couple of years that just kind of came out of nowhere. So we are just being flexible and trying to be able to adapt quickly enough in case anything changes. But right now, and we see that in the request as well, fewer and fewer ask for the contingency plans and the regulations. They are more like, I don't want to hear about it. Let's just go and let's just travel and let's just gather and be together. And I know I might get some haters for saying this, but still, this is where we are at the moment, and everybody is basically living their lives as they would have before the COVID pandemic hit us.
Yeah, that's a very positive message that events are back and as before. And now some clients might be watching us now, or later they will be watching this talk and they're interested in booking their incentive in Norway. What message would you like? What message would you like to share with potential clients?
Well, first of all, I mentioned it briefly in the beginning. There's a lot of unknown about our destination, and there's a lot of preconceived ideas. So forget that it's cold, forget that it's boring, forget that it's, a lot of things. It's a really exciting destination. Even yesterday, I just read it on the news this morning. Oslo was the warmest, the hottest capital in Europe, for example. So we have Riviera style scenarios in summertime. It's not that when you come to Norway that you need to wear a big puffer jacket in May and freeze to death. That's one thing. The other thing is that it's always extremely expensive. No, it doesn't have to be. I mean, we have programs on every level for every kind of budget. It's not because we see that most requests are now heading towards bigger budgets and want to have bigger productions that we cannot deliver something smaller. We also still have a lot of long weekend groups, smaller groups, smaller meetings, but with a lot of social program attached to it. And it doesn't have to be extremely expensive. So that's always the two main things. And then why would you come to Norway? I mean, the reasons are absolutely endless. The two best and most well-known are, of course, the bucket list items, which is the fjords. Everybody wants to have the fjords one time in their lives. And then in the winter, half of the year, the Northern Lights or the Aurora Borealis, right? So those are kind of bucket list items. But besides that, it's all about the immersion and the experience that we create. And you are constantly surrounded by this incredibly dramatic nature wherever you go. So whatever you design, whichever concepts you build, there is this extra level of amazement constantly. And that is something that we have as a bonus in Norway compared to other Scandinavian countries where it's a little bit more flat and a little, I'm not going to say less exciting, but I mean, I love Norway more. So it's about the intensity of the experience. So usually, if you haven't heard of it much, or if you haven't been yet, or if you haven't seen any programs in Norway, please just reach out. I can show you some stuff, and I'm sure you'll get inspired right away and want to consider it. And then still the same as before as well. it works really well as a wild card, because also on the client side, end clients now, even though now they're thinking about the Nordics more and more and more, many still don't consider it strictly because it doesn't pop up in their head. They've been going to Ibiza, Mexico, and whatever, Greece, all all their corporate lives, so they not necessarily think about something entirely different or the other extreme. But once they get it suggested, they're like, oh, yeah, this is quite a change, but really exciting. And then when they see those elements that they didn't imagine were possible in Norway, or the fact that there's simply enough infrastructure and large enough hotels and enough venues and enough rooms, because a lot of people still think of tiny little villages when they think of Norway. So all of that combined is quite surprising and quite convincing as well. So yeah, I hope to welcome many, many more of you to Norway, whether it's Oslo or the West Coast, Stavanger, the fjords, higher up north, the Arctic. We go all the way up to above the Arctic Circle and to our furthest destination, literally at the end of the world, called Svalbard, which is the closest northernmost inhabited place, above 1,000 inhabitants, closest to the North Pole. So it's super exciting place as well. Lots of things to do in Norway.
Very, very cool. So Heidi, that's all from us today. I think if anyone in the audience watching this right now or also later, they can reach out to you at any point, ask you any questions about incentives, about sustainability, about Norway. And we also actually had another chat about incentives, that for those who are interested specifically in incentives, might be interesting to read this. I will link the blog post in the comments. It's about incentive travel in general, talking about the definition, about the trends, about what people expect from incentive travel. So I hope that we'll have another chat about incentives, because for me personally, that's the most exciting part of the MICE acronym. And yeah, incentives are back, and we'll see much more development in this area, because there's constant innovation, curiosity, and rethinking all models. And after having 2 years of pandemic, we definitely need to be curious and rethink, do things again from scratch, as you also mentioned, and think big as well. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Heidi, and I look forward to our next live chat.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Arena. It's been a pleasure. Take care.